Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022 episode of MSP Dispatch. Joined as always by my co-host, Tony Francisco. How you doing, Tony?
Excellent, Ray. How you doing?
It's another beautiful day. I can't complain. We have some vendor shenanigans. We have some vendor oops, and we have a lot of security news as per the usual. So why don't we get into the news?
Let's do it.
Our first story is a little bit of vendor whoops, as NAble, the PSA RMM and software vendor to MSPs, has a standalone backup product that's popped up in their app this week announcing a rebranding. An email also went out to the MSPs announcing that their standalone backup product would be renamed Cove. This Cove backup had a YouTube video with the GM of backup describing the product and what its uses were going to be. However, per David Weeks responding to several comments on Facebook groups with outcry asking, why are you guys doing this? David Weeks advised that the pop-up and the rebranding actually was sent out prematurely. It was planned. They are not breaking out the product, but it was the actual notices were sent out before they intended to. NAble is going to be responding back with an official comment for MSP Dispatch. But for now, let's get to the commentary. Tony, we see questions in various communities asking why vendors, quote unquote, waste time on rebranding. It's not without a modicum of effort that requires changing product names and documentation. Even NAble's own standalone backup webpage has nothing right now. It did have information before and it's been wiped out. So there's a little bit of effort that goes into these rebrandings. What are the benefits here? What are the pros and cons to doing a rebranding of a product name?
That's a tough question, Ray. I personally have gone through the rebranding process, and I think what it all comes down to is vendor alignment. You have a lot of movement in any corporation, and you have a lot of straggling projects, maybe even products, maybe services, maybe companies themselves that have been acquired in some shape or form, but never truly aligned from a marketing and messaging perspective. So coordinating all of that isn't just a marketing effort. There's a technical underpinning as well that involves every single reference to the previous company, every single operation of the previous organization or product to make sure it's all aligned with what the current mainstream of your existing organization is trying to adhere to. So I would love to say that, it's just marketing. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. And making sure that everyone is on the same page at the same time doing the same thing is what gives a company the most effective force and benefit that it can to its customers. So hopefully some customers can see that, but when those marketing efforts slip out a little too early, it becomes a little interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we saw some of the outcry in the Facebook groups was that why are they wasting time on rebranding when they could be adding features to the product or making it more stable? Or there's always asks, right, that are from the users of such products. Let's be honest, it's not the developers doing the rebranding. Yeah, they're going to have to change some graphics, they're going to have to change some words and some files, but they're not dedicating entire epics to just rebranding a few things. I'm sure in the grand scheme of things, it didn't take much effort. It's more marketing, communications, that kind of stuff, maybe documentation teams. So, I understand the concern with the amount of effort that goes into it from the comm side, but like you said, you went over this. On the developer side, when it comes to feature releases and product security, is it really that big of a detriment to them to go through rebranding versus what they're supposed to be doing, which is making the product better?
Well, I think that's where the leadership comes in. The leadership is should be able to explain the consolidation of these messages, the consolidation of these operational tasks, the consolidation of even the logos will have a more effective impact to X, and they have to define what that X is, and hopefully communicate that to the team. If the development team is just responsible for, in fact, changing a few logos, they have it easy. But if we're talking about an alignment of reintegrating in entirely everything into the new organization and the platform level, now the developers are involved. So really depends on your perspective, but it is not a fun process. but it is kind of funny when it sneaks out a little bit ahead of time.
That reminds me, I have to get back to my own developers because they're waiting on me for some graphics for rebranding.
That is funny. That's funny. So can I jump into the next story, Ray?
Yeah, let's do it. What do we got for the next story, Tony?
Cloudflare flags the largest HTTPS DDoS attack ever recorded. As listed in darkreading.com and techspot.com, Cloudflare mitigated the most powerful denial of service attack ever, using HTTPS this time. The engineers identified one of the largest DDoS attacks ever attempted, targeting at an unidentified cryptocurrency platform that was identified and mitigated in under 20 seconds. The individuals behind the act flooded the network with more than 15 million requests. According to Cloudflare, the botnet responsible for carrying out the attack represented 6,000 bots from 112 countries around the world. The attack is believed to be have leveraged the servers from hosting providers running a vulnerable Java-based application. According to Cloudflare's data, 15% of the attacks originated in Indonesia. The Russian Federation, Brazil, India, Colombia, and the United States each accounted for a total of 5% of the original endpoints. It lasted just 15 seconds, but it is definitely considered the largest of its kind in the company has ever observed. So really quick, this varies a little differently from the normal HTTP DDoS attack. And the reason it varies a little different is it's now using HTTPS, which requires a little bit more processing power on the encryption side, which consume more resources. So Ray, we've just watched not just the volume, but more importantly, the process become a little bit more complicated and definitely larger, consequently impacting more people. This was done just from a vulnerability not being patched in Java web applications. How do we solve this? This is going to become larger and larger and larger as we see it happening repeatedly. What are your thoughts on this? And should we be afraid?
So this is something I have a little bit of experience with. Remember last year, the big VoIP DDoS attacks, right? So, we went through the bandwidth DDoS attacks where bandwidth accounts for approximately 53% of all voice traffic in the US. Before that, it was VoIP MS and IntelliQuint happened afterward, Telnix happened afterward. But these were massive DDoS attacks. And every single time it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So this doesn't surprise me. It's just, this is the 2022 version, and 2023, I guarantee you, will be an even bigger one. So it's a twofold thing. As we get, it's funny because you talk to an ISP, you talk to a WISP, or any service provider that handles infrastructure. And while the average user at home is saying, awesome, I'm getting a gig up and a gig down from AT&T now for $50 a month, on the infrastructure side, all the service providers on Nanog are screaming, okay, but that means when there's a DNS amplification attack or some kind of DDoS attack,
it's going to be that much worse.
It's going to be that much worse because there's bigger pipes for these unpatched, systems to start, attacking us. So it completely becomes a game of cat and mouse. When it comes to the patching, that's a tale as old as time, right? We're talking Microsoft wants us to auto patch, and they've been pushing us to auto patch, for the last several years, and they've been pushing harder and harder. And MSPs and IT service providers are pushing back with long-term service branch or wanting to withhold third-party patching and do it on their schedule because patches sometimes break things. We've seen that over and over where, or even Log4j. Remember last year, Log4j, where, it was, what was it? 1.14 was bad. 1.15 was worse. 1.16 was worse. It's like every time they patched, there was something else that was a problem, right? And I'm sure I'm going to see in the comment, that wasn't the version number. I apologize. My memory prior to Monday is, a little foggy. But the case holds true, right? Like it's a cat and mouse game. And I don't know that auto patching is the answer. I don't know that, more regimented and structured patch schedule, because let's be honest, IT service providers are overwhelmed, right? And just to put things in context, 15 seconds. If you sing Happy Birthday song, we're not going to do it because it's still under still under copyright. But if you sing the happy birthday song, that is 30 seconds, meaning that DDoS attack lasted half as long as the torture of listening to happy birthday to you for 30 seconds.
And it had amazing impact. I'm really interested to hear what the, because they clearly have, root cause analysis and origination endpoints and how it was mitigated. Thank you, Cloudflare. That being said, I'm really interested to see who was not saved from that DDoS attack using HTTPS attacks outside of Cloudflare. So I'm really interested to see what the impact is going to be originating from that particular tactic.
And, if we can, 15 seconds, and if we can prevent a future DDoS attack, my birthday is tomorrow. So if we can prevent singing happy birthday over Zoom or any video call, that's even better. We can, let's increase security and limit drama for everybody. Speaking of how vendors handle things, though, why don't we get into the next story? The next story is about a merchant processing vendor, BNG, which is paired with ConnectBooster. I believe BNG is the parent company of ConnectBooster, which is a customer portal and payment processing solution for MSPs. Ties into the most widely used PSAs out there, in addition to QuickBooks and other accounting packages. They sent out an email on Sunday morning around 9:40 a.m. Eastern. They sent an email advising that several terms and conditions were going to be changed and advising of those changes. The reason this was interesting is because the email also says that if you continue to use their services, by using their services, you accept the modification to the terms and conditions. That's not completely unusual. The part that struck out to me was the opportunity to respond back was limited to a phone call. Now, remember, this was on a Sunday. Phone call to customer support where the department was closed as far as the accounts were getting back. I was unable to confirm for myself because I was made unaware until Sunday evening. The most MSPs process their payments and do their billing on the first of the month. So they're doing their billing on the first of the month on Sunday. And if they choose to get the revenue they were expecting on the first of the month, then they have to agree to these terms. That doesn't sound so nefarious. That's pretty commonplace. But if we move over to the terms and conditions that was linked in this email, and we go over to section 1.16, I'm going to read a couple lines from this, and you tell me if this stands out to you, Tony. So section 1.16 termination reads, "This agreement shall remain in full force and in effect for an initial term of 3 years." Now, this is interesting because this was sent to some clients that were on a month-to-month agreement. And suddenly, if they're doing processing on the first, thereby accepting the agreement, they are now subject to a 3-year term. Now, I should mention, this has not been officially confirmed by anybody, but there's been enough rumors going around that I'm putting this out there solely as a rumor that Kaseya may have purchased BNG late last year. This has been unofficially confirmed by account reps at BNG, at ConnectBooster, and others in the industry. We are not reporting it as officially yet. I want to be very clear on that because neither Kaseya nor ConnectBoosters come out officially saying it. But this is in line with the 3-year contract terms Kaseya is most known for. The other thing I want to bring up here, and potentially more frustrating in these agreements, goes a little further down in the exact same paragraph where they calculate termination fees. The other notable section from the same block reads, "For purposes of calculating the termination fee, servicers reserve the right in their discretion to calculate such remaining fees based upon the anticipated annual volume and average transaction levels contemplated by either the merchant's actual volume and transaction levels during the period in which they actively process with servicers, or 2, published industry volume and transaction levels associated with the merchant MCC as selected at the servicer's sole discretion." This means that your termination fees can be calculated in the way they deem fit. We have reached out to Ryan Goodman, who is president of ConnectBooster. We also reached out to a noted MSP contract attorney for their feedback. We have not heard back from Ryan Goodman. The contract attorney should have comments and perspective for us by the Friday episode of MSP Dispatch. But Tony, these terms, which can turn on a dime, you're getting an email on Sunday, you can't call in because the department's closed. You respond back, it's a no reply email address. How does this affect your faith in your vendors? I mean, MSPs typically don't want to sign a 3-year agreement because of things like this. And then even when you agree to some contract terms, now the vendor can change it at their will. How do you think this affects the relationship of the vendor, of the MSP, with their vendors?
This is shocking, Ray. I'm stunned. I have so many questions. I have so many concerns. I'm really interested to see the impact, how this is going to be received in the market for a variety of reasons. First, we talked about this in the show. Microsoft released the new commerce experience, the NCE, which is going to be live by the end of this year. It's already live now, but it's going to be mandatory by the end of this year, locking you into either using the Office 365 suite into a month-to-month agreement with a 20% increase in cost, or a yearly agreement. And I also said that I predict that that's going to have a 2 and possibly a 3-year agreement at a later time. My biggest concern out of this, because Office 365 is the lowest common denominator in every company out there, that other companies will follow suit. Someone said, hold my beer. We're in the process of consolidating organizations, and we're going to have them, ironically, per the last story, be aligned with our processes. Now, that being said, the subversive way that they did this, just kind of like right now, I totally forgot to tell you, Ray, by looking at me right now, you've agreed to give me a pay raise. I know it's weird because, but that's exactly what just happened. And in addition to that, they're saying based on a forecast that revenues, commissions have to be paid based on a forecast. I'm shocked. I'm appalled. And there has to be some repercussions from this. I'm interested to hear more about your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that kills me. And Simon, please don't get any ideas here. That's the thing that kills me, right? It's not even based on the revenue you brought forth during your term. That could be one thing. Okay, you could argue those are expectations of revenue, whether that they're due that or not. That's one argument. But now you're saying based on what the industry is doing, based on the anticipated volume of the industry norm, now you're saying regardless of whatever income I was actually bringing in, you may charge me in excess of that. These are ridiculous terms. Now I look back to, I'll use Kaseya. Now, again, there's been zero confirmation that Kaseya and ConnectBooster are related in any way whatsoever. However, Kaseya is known for their 3-year terms and their less than favorable contract terms. And there's been outcry in every social community, and that I've participated at all. And there's over 60 or 70. Now, we've seen Kaseya's president go back and schedule meetings, right? CJ has scheduled meetings with various MSPs trying to get the faith reestablished and build up confidence. But then you see practices like this. Do the vendors care? And I'm not talking about the smaller vendors. Of course, there's smaller vendors that work more on building the faith and confidence for it with MSPs. But I'm talking about like the bigger vendors, the bigger players that are possibly PE funded and maybe go through acquisitions over and over throughout the years. Do they really care about sentiment in the communities?
As we've discussed on a previous show, I don't think that Kaseya has had a really strong channel presence, but I think the acquisition of Datto, which is known for its channel presence and its involvement, could have some influence over it. I don't think that we're far enough into the game for the Datto culture and mindset and MSP centric mentality has really gotten its roots into the Kaseya team as of yet. That being said, they may just run as 2 independent siloed organizations, but this is a move that is completely counterintuitive to the Datto's path and trajectory.
Absolutely. And, we want to hear from you, the MSP audience, right? Whether you leave the comments in the section below or you hit us up on Twitter at MSP Media TV. We want to hear from you. We want to know exactly what you're thinking and how this is affecting you. One thing we know is that it went to some people that were BNG clients. We don't know if it went to all, if it went to older contracts. but there were definitely month-to-month contracts that were affected. We want to know if you were affected. We want to hear your stories. And while you're doing that, while you're leaving those comments in the section below and reading the links that we'll have in the description, go ahead and click that like and subscribe, smash that like button, do all that fun stuff. It lets us know that we're on the right track for the things that are important to you. Tony, we covered the big stories, and I appreciate your thoughts and opinions. We do have some notable mentions, though, don't we?
We do, as a matter of fact. Millions using Lenovo laptops, potentially vulnerable to malware attacks, is the new article is listed in channelfutures.com. As mentioned in the previous mention about the largest HTTP DDoS attack ever, well, guess what? Those small vulnerabilities may be in your Lenovo laptop. More than 100 models of the Lenovo laptops used by millions globally contain vulnerabilities that could allow attackers to successfully execute attacks originating from those laptops. So as a quick notation to everyone and a reference to the previous story we covered, please, please, please update your computers. It's for the sake and the betterment of everyone.
And speaking of awesome events, thanks for covering that, Tony. Simon, we have some notable events or some fun community events coming up. What do we got going on? We have Dell Technology World in Vegas. We have the Partner First coming up, Standardize, Secure, and Scale with Automation, featuring Lion Guard. We have May 5th, ChannelPro SMB Forum Midwest Chicago. May 6th, MSP Dispatch. We'll be doing the wrap up and hopefully hearing back from some of the people we had reached out to. And also on May 6th, MSP Security Policy Writing Workshop presented by Lifecycle Insights. We'll leave links to all of these so you can sign up for them below. So be sure to do it. There's definitely some awesome and interesting information. So Tony, thank you so much for your commentary, insights, and words of wisdom. We're going to close this by singing happy birthday. No.
15 seconds is a long time.
It's a long time. It's what I've been saying for years. And with that, thank you, MSP audience, for hanging out with us for the last half hour. We look forward to seeing you on Friday. But in the meantime, hit us up in Twitter or on the socials. We look forward to hearing from you. Have an awesome week.
See you, everyone.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.